On today's episode of the Retro Gamers podcast, I discuss the new Xbox Retro Classics collection before kicking off the summer at the Silverball Retro Arcade, where I sit down with professional pinball and arcade senior tech Dan Toskaner for a special interview. Hello everyone and welcome to the Retro Gamers podcast, episode 411. Anthony here. And as you can see, I do not have a co-host with me this week, at least for the open of the show. But I'm actually here because, first off, want to wish everybody, hope you had a very happy Memorial Day weekend. And a special thank you to all the people who are out there that are in the service, that serve for our country. And obviously in remembrance of all those who valiantly lost their lives to ensure that we have the freedoms that we have. So there's a big thank you for that. But we're now at a turning point for the year, because usually after this weekend is when all the summer festivities start to kick off. So we're going headlong into summer, and I have something special for this episode now that we're kind of heading into the summer. But before we get to that, I wanted to go over a few bits of retro news, and then we'll jump into what we're going to be talking about this episode. And it's a really good interview that I have planned. So, but first, before we get to that, let's talk retro news. So, first thing I wanted to just bring up is that Nintendo Switch Online is always updating their library there. And we got 4 new Game Boy and Game Boy Color games added to the library. And those 4 games are Gradius, the Interstellar Assault, Survival Kids, The Sword of Hope, which is an RPG, and the Kirby puzzle game, Kirby's Star Stacker. So these all dropped on May 23rd, so they are available for you now if you want to check out the Nintendo Switch library and play some Game Boy games. Okay. Also, something that dropped. This is a purchase that you can actually have. It released actually on May 16th, but the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 was released on the Switch, PlayStation, Windows, and Xbox One. So you can get it everywhere. PC, everybody's got it. The game lineup on this one is actually pretty solid. You have Plasma Sword, Nightmare of Bilstein, Power Stone and Power Stone 2, which is really kind of awesome. I haven't played Power Stone since the original Dreamcast release, so it's cool to see that these are available again. We also have Capcom vs. SNK Millennium Fight 2000 Pro. I don't know a whole lot about the Millennium Fight version of this. And then we have Project Justice, Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper, Capcom vs. SNK 2 Mark of the Millennium 2001, and Capcom Fighting Evolution. Again, that's a huge collection. And Project Justice, by the way, going back to that one really quickly, Project Justice is actually a sequel to the fighting game Rival Schools United by Fate, which was released on the original PlayStation. And I actually had that game for a while, and I absolutely loved it. It was just such a change for a fighting game. And it's one of the games I don't remember if I traded it in or if it was one of the games that got lost in one of my many moves. But unfortunately, it disappeared from my collection, and it's actually it's one of those rare games that's really expensive to find. I would love to get Rival Schools back in my collection, but Project Justice is part of this Capcom Fighting Collection. That's just, I'm actually excited about playing that one because I've never played it before. So again, that one is available now. You can purchase it on any of your systems or on PC. And then the last bit of news that I wanted to share, this is all about game releases. These all just came out recently. But Xbox announced recently, and it just launched, that if you are a Game Pass member, you now have access to what they're calling Xbox Retro Classics. And it's just a whole bunch of retro games that they released for Game Pass members free of charge. You don't have to pay for these. And right now there are 60 games available for you to play at any time. And at some point, they're going to be adding more. The plan is to have over 100 games in this collection. and 50 of the games currently are Activision games. Now, I'm not going to go through the full list of games, but just to lay out some of them, just to show you the breadth of what they're doing. Barnstorming, Checkers, Chopper Command, Commando, Decathlon, Demon Attack, Fishing Derby, Freeway, Grand Prix, Kaboom. I used to love playing Kaboom on the Atari. Mech Warrior 2, Pitfall and Pitfall 2, Riddle of the Sphinx, River Raid 1 and 2, Space Quest 2 and 6. I wonder if the rest of them are going to be coming. I would assume they were. The Dagger of Amon-Ra, Title Match Pro Wrestling, Trick Shot, Zork 1, The Great Underground Empire, and Zork 0. That's just I just randomly read off some of the games that are on there. But just the fact that you're getting a free collection. And on top of that, as a bonus for Xbox Game Pass members, the other thing that they announced is that if you want to sign up for Antstream Arcade right now, it's which has access to over 1,300 games, you can get that for $9.99. So a lot of benefits to Game Pass members. So if you are a Game Pass member, you should definitely check this out. I unfortunately I stopped my Game Pass a while ago because I don't really use. I never even got the Series X. I have an Xbox One, which I enjoyed, but I've been a PlayStation guy for a while. PlayStation 4 just kind of weaned me off of my Xbox. But this is a great benefit for everybody to have if you are an Xbox player and you want to go back and play some retro games. So really, really cool stuff there. And those were the 3 bits of retro news I wanted to share. And now we're going to get to the actual meat of this show. So again, like I said, Memorial Day weekend just passed. We're now going into the throes of summer. Everybody's going to be going out. The weather's going to get better. People are heading to the beach. And what I have set up for today is I did an interview. I actually drove down to Asbury Park, New Jersey, went on the boardwalk there, and I visited Silverball Retro Arcade, which is exactly what it says. It's a retro arcade. It has a lot of retro video games, and it has a lot of pinball machines. And I was put in touch with somebody there who you're about to see the interview with. Really, really amazing guy, very knowledgeable. His name is Dan Toskaner. He is the senior tech at Silverball Retro Arcade. He's been doing this for a very long time. We had a wonderful conversation. And afterwards, I'll just show this afterwards because you might be the shirt that I'm wearing right now. After we had our talk and he walked me through the arcade, we went to he took me over to a pizzeria where they have a challenge where if you eat an entire pie, an extra large pie of pizza, thankfully it was thin crust, they would give you a commemorative shirt, and their shirts change all the time. And the name of this place is Carmen's Pizzeria in Neptune City, New Jersey. So we went over to the pizzeria, and when we looked at what the limited edition shirt they were giving away at the time, it was video game related, and we both looked at each other and said, well, we just finished interviewing each other. This is absolutely perfect. So we both took the challenge, and you have to eat the whole pie in under a half an hour. We took the challenge. I was worried about it, but I actually finished eating mine before he finished his. And now I have the whole pie Eaters Club from Carmen's Pizzeria. I know Pete and Elda's is the bar that's there, but I'm just going to show off for those of you who are watching on YouTube or Spotify that this is the shirt from Carmen's Pizzeria. Again, Highway 35 in Neptune City, New Jersey. And we got Mario, we got Luigi, Link and Donkey Kong, and you see Pac-Man there in the background. Really, really happy that I got this shirt. It's just a really cool design. So that was the pizza eating experience. But now I'm going to show you my interview with Dan Toskaner, senior tech at Silverball Retro Arcade. All right, welcome back to the Retro Gamers Podcast. We are here in Asbury Park, New Jersey at the Silverball Retro Arcade. And sitting with me here is Dan Toskaner, senior tech for the Retro Arcade. Dan, thank you so much for joining me. And also thank you so much for opening up the arcade for me this morning so we can chat.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here. So again, we're sitting here in the Retro Arcade, right on the boardwalk. The ocean's right out there, which is always nice to see. I was telling you before we started recording that I haven't seen the ocean in like a year.
So it's nice to be back on the coast. And obviously and to be surrounded by a bunch of pinball machines, a bunch of arcades. You can see behind us, we've got Millipede and Crystal Castles, and these are the originals. But before we get started, like diving into gaming and stuff like that, because I know you have a really long history with arcade games.
That makes me sound old.
That's okay. I'm old too. I mean, look, the shirt says it all. Middle-aged in gaming. So, but that's okay. I go because that's what we're here to talk retro. We are kind of retro. That's kind of where we are in our lives right now. But just to go back, just your background and stuff like that. So how did you get started in arcades? Because you've been doing this for a while, right?
40 years this year.
40 years.
Started in 1985. Wow. And it kind of found me. It was an accident. You know, I didn't plan to get into this and do this. I loved games as a kid. Way back when I was a young kid, and there were no video games at that point, or very few. Everything was electromechanical. I went to an old bowling alley up in New York where I was living at the time with my family, you know, once, twice a week, whatever, just to bowl. And they had 4 pinball machines in there. And I fell in love with these things, and I just loved to play them. And that was the big thing for me was, you know, playing Gottlieb's Kingpin once a week.
I was about to ask you to remember which pinball machines.
Oh, yeah. I remember all 4 of them. Williams Darling. They had a Williams Blue Chip, the Gottlieb Kingpin, and what was the 4th one now? I should remember it. It'll come to me.
It'll come to when it comes to you later. Just shout it out randomly during our conversation. That's fine.
Oh, Williams Lucky Ace.
Oh, so, there you go. See?
Yep.
That didn't take long.
But Kingpin was the one because Kingpin gave you 2 games for a quarter. The others were just 1.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. And back then when you were a kid, you want your quarter to go as far as it can go.
Make it last. Yep.
Nice.
And it had cartoony graphics and stuff, and so that was the game. That was the one that really got me started. So that wasn't obviously work. That was just playing them. But after that, in high school, I was in high school in the early 80s, and you know all the video games are starting to just appear everywhere. Space Invaders, Asteroids, all that stuff. And there was a pizzeria near my high school, and suddenly Pac-Man was there one day.
Oh, okay.
And that was just that. I already liked the other games, but that was the one that really, you know, got me. And
it got a lot of people actually.
Oh yeah. I mean, there were
fever.
lines. There were people lining up quarters on the glass waiting to play, and you know, you never see that anymore. But
I was just gonna say, I still remember that. I still remember those days from like me. I was more a little late '80s, early '90s, but I still remember putting my quarter up there, and I remember the lines. Maybe not as long as like when Pac-Man first came out and stuff like that, but everybody just wanted to play it, whether it was Pac-Man or something else. Yeah. My era, I think it was more like the Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat games, where everybody wanted next. Everybody wanted to beat the person who was beating everybody else. That type of thing, which is awesome.
And those you could play 2 at once. You could double the.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas with Pac-Man, it's like you wind up behind somebody who's like a Pac-Man wizard,
and you're waiting for an hour.
Yeah, you're waiting for a while. I actually remember once I was in when I was living in LA. They did this like retro. They did like this little retro. I don't want to say expo, but just a display at one of the train stations, like the main train station in Los Angeles, and they had a bunch of arcades. And I walked up to Miss Pac-Man, and I started playing it. And I remember there was somebody behind me, like, because they were free to play. It was just, you know, a little thing. And I start playing it. I was going on like a really good run. And all I hear is the woman behind me. She's like, of course I get behind this guy. And I'm like, oh. and I just kept going. No, I just kept going. No, she did not shame me into losing.
Good.
I lost eventually, but I had the high score for as long as I was there, as far as I know. But okay, so pinball back in the 80s is where you started.
70s.
70s, okay. Pinball back in the pinball wizard then. Yeah. So maybe not that far 70s.
But it was actually good. I'd rather be younger, but it was good because I saw the older games in operation back in those days, the electromechanicals, and I saw it change from electromechanical to digital or solid state. And then I saw video, the advent of that, and everything just progressed through. And as far as working, that was really the accident. That just happened by a summer job. I started working at an amusement park in Rye, New York, Rye Playland.
I used to go to Rye Playland.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even trying to work in the arcades. It just happened to be that there was a classified ad in the newspaper because there was no internet back then. And it said, you know, looking for young people to work for the summer, whatever it said. And I answered it. I went up, I interviewed, and I did not get the job.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so for that first summer of '84, I ended up working in another crummy summer job cleaning musical instruments that were rented to kids during the school year, and that was horrible. And
Oh, wow,
hated
that
it.
does not sound fun.
No, it wasn't. But it was something to do, you know, and made a few bucks.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the next summer, they had kept my application at Playland, and they apparently liked me. I didn't even talk to the owner the first time I went there.
Okay.
But they had held it aside, and I learned later that the reason I didn't get the job the first year is because I was only 15. And they wanted 16 and up because 16-year-olds could work later into the night.
Of
legally.
course, yes.
15-year-olds couldn't, so that was their, you know, thing that was better for them. So the next year when I was older, they hired me, and I loved it. And it was just out of the blue. I ended up giving out change in arcades, watching the mechanics, and I was, you know, everything was being absorbed as I was working. I didn't realize that this was going to turn into what it did, but I stayed there for 37 years.
Wow.
And the people, they were like family to me. You know, they didn't own the whole park. They had concessions, but they were wonderful, wonderful people. And the parents are gone now, but I'm still in touch with the kids. I was there. We operated through 2019. Then COVID came, and after COVID, he never reopened.
Okay.
And the park is still there. The park is struggling. It's a county-owned park. That's a story for another day because I could go on for an hour just about the park. But still, that was what got me going with this. And if they were still in business, I would still be going up there once a week to work for them and help them, because that's what I did. Even working here, living in New Jersey, far away, 2 hours, I would drive up there once a week on a Monday, spend the entire day. It was like a 20-hour day with the travel and everything, but I would, you know, gladly do it because I love those people. So
Well, I was just going to say, that's what you do for family.
yeah. And they're not really my family, but it feels that
Doesn't
way.
matter.
Yeah.
I was like, you get to pick family too. It's not just about blood relations.
That's right.
You know?
But I just fell into it with them, and it was
That's
it was a good
that's
ride.
amazing. And then, like, you know, obviously, starting at such a young age, just not just playing the games, but just absorbing all of the technical aspects of it, like how to go into them and fix them and do all of these
Learning
things.
in the trenches.
Yeah, you just learned as you. Well, I would assume you had guides along the way, or did you just
little
learn,
bit.
or did you
I-
pretty much learn on your own?
Well, I took a 2-year computer repair course at the local community college, and that helped. It, you know, sort of related. And the computers back then are nothing like they have today.
No.
But it did relate, you know, as far as power supplies and electronics and that kind of thing. So I learned a lot from that. But other than that, it was just a matter of trying, learning, watching. And the guys that were there at the time doing the repairs were very nice, but they weren't there that often. It was, you know, once, twice a week.
Right.
And the rest of the week, well, you know, something's wrong with that. See what you can do. Can you fix it? You know, and I just found that I had the hands for it and liked it. And thankfully didn't electrocute myself in the process because you can. But no, I just kept going with it. And then you buy a game or two for the house, and, you know, you bring them home and you start working on your own games, and it keeps going. It snowballs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you didn't have the advent of YouTube to help you out.
I did not.
So,
I'm glad it's there now, but I did not have it back then.
yeah, but
then the manufacturers were still in business. That's the difference. Today.
That's also true. Yeah.
Now Atari's long gone. You know, there's one or two out of every game in this place. There's one or two manufacturers that we still have, but the rest of them are all.
I was gonna say Atari is still around actually, and they're
but not doing this stuff.
Not doing this stuff.
And they will not support this.
I would imagine not. But
They'd laugh if I tried to ask them a technical.
you should call them. You should be like, you know, I know you guys are still in business and you're doing well. I got a question about
And
your
again,
crystal
it's
cash
40 years
machine.
old.
Yeah, can you help me fix this? And you'll probably have some 20-year-old on the phone. It'll be like, what's that?
Right.
But so now, 37 years. That's just that really is a testament to, like, because you don't. I think these days you don't really hear a lot of stories about long-term jobs, like the way that it used to be. So, and then transitioning over here to Silverball, which is more in your backyard because you live closer to here.
Now I live here. Yeah, at the
now you
time,
live
and I was in New York at the time where I started. And
Okay.
Then when I moved down here, I didn't have the job first. I moved here first because I had to for family reasons. My parents were down here. I'm the only kid, and, you know, helped them out as they were aging.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happened. You know, God put me here. God put this business here, I think, at the right time, because it's, you know, how many of these are there? There's very few.
It's true.
And I'm in, you know, 10 minutes away, and it's and
That's-
then they
it's
needed
perfect.
a tech. You know, when I got here, there were some guys working on the games, but, you know, they were just kind of hobbyists, nice guys.
Yeah.
But I had more background in it and done it longer, and so
For sure.
it happened and it came together.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, because you brought up something earlier too, because you've been doing this for 40 years, you've been there for all of these changes from when, like you said, when it went from tech to digital to video and all of that stuff. So I'm sure there are not a lot of people with that skill set who can easily go from Crystal Castles to like, you know, a Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I'm literally just looking around the machine, or to a machine that just came out like 3 years ago.
Right.
So you're in high demand for places like this.
It's impossible to find people that do this.
Yeah.
I have one other guy with me here who's great. He's younger than me. He grew up with it because his father has been doing it even longer than I have. And his father goes around, services games in people's houses. He doesn't work in an arcade. He's I guess you'd call it a route guy. You know, he's got a whole list of clients that call him when their pinball machine in the basement is broken.
Of course.
So his son learned from him, and his son has been working here since he was a teenager. Now he's 30. And I can trust him. I know he's not going to put a 20 amp fuse where he should put a 5 and blow things up and cause fires. But he and I are the only two people that touch these games, other than a stuck ball. You know, the people who work the counter can do simple things like that. But other than that, nobody else, because they're delicate and fragile. And
well, I was just going to say, I mean, again, you look at some of these that are like 40, 50 plus years old, some of them, right?
Yep.
Hard to get the parts if you
Impossible
need one.
in some cases. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because like just looking around here, can you tell me just right off the top of your head what the oldest machine is in here?
Mm-hmm. Well, the oldest pinball machine is Gottlieb's Knockout from 1950.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want later, we can get a shot of that, I'm sure. But the oldest actual game in the building is something called a Rotary Merchandiser, which goes back to the 1930s. It's almost 100 years old.
Wow.
And that's up front, and that's just a little turntable, and it's got little prizes in it, little ducks and stuff. And you put your money in, and the arm goes across, and you try to knock it into the hole. They still make similar things today.
Oh yeah,
in arcades.
They make all kinds of
We have the oldest, I'm
That's
sure,
nice.
and a lot of miles around.
I'm sure it's been around. I mean, that's crazy. But now you've been here for about 3 years.
14
now?
years.
Oh, you've been here for 14 years.
Yep.
Okay.
I overlapped with the other job.
Oh, got it. That's right. You were doing them both at the same time. That's insane, because I can only imagine all the driving you must have done.
Yep.
And those easy passes. And
but that thankfully was seasonal.
Okay.
Up in New York, that was only summers, and so it was a hard summer. And here we're super busy in the summer too. But
well, gee, I can only imagine why. Staring at the ocean right now, why it's so popular.
But I survived it somehow.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the games themselves, or just your gaming experience. I know you talked about how you fell in love with pinball, at the bowling alley with those 4 pinball machines. But from there, and obviously, you've been doing this your whole life. But in terms of you as a gamer, between arcade and console, I know we talked about this before we did this interview, but just want to get your thoughts on I know you're more of obviously an arcade guy, more of a pinball guy. But did you ever get into console gaming at all?
Very little.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I did have an Atari 2600, and later I got a ColecoVision, which was like, wow, the graphics are better.
Yes.
You know all this stuff. But beyond that, not really. As a kid, I didn't have much money until I started working. And by the time I started working, I had a whole arcade full of games I could play for free. So
who needs Mario at home when you have all of these?
Right there.
And free, right?
Right.
Because you're working there.
Yeah. So I wasn't buying cartridges. I was just, going to work, and when I wasn't working, I was playing. So that's really what I did. It was mostly coin-op for me.
Okay. And then in terms of coin-ops, where, I guess I'm trying to gauge, when you were younger, which ones drew your eye the most? I know Pac-Man, you said, was a big one, obviously. Yep. I was but what other ones were always your go-to games?
It changed over the years,
Of course. Let's go back.
As things came and went, just pinball, the first one I saw was Gottlieb's Kingpin, and then there were others that I played that I just liked. As they went digital, there were cool games that came along. Williams made great pins all the way through the 90s, and even as video was becoming a big thing in the 80s, pinball was still going with it. So I played both. Okay. A lot of people were one way or the other. They love video and hate pinball, or they love pinball and hate video. And typically the older people like the pinball because that's from an earlier generation.
Of course.
But I was lucky that I was in that in-between stage. So I got to play both, and I enjoy both. And I'm one of the few people, I guess, that like both almost equally.
Okay, so if you had every single pinball machine available to you, and you had to pick, just off the top of your head, you had to pick, this is my absolute favorite one, I'm going to run to this one first. Which one is it going to be? Is it Gottlieb's Kingdom, or is it a different one?
It depends on my mood. If I'm in the mood for something older, yeah, Gottlieb's Kingpin is my favorite just because it was the first one I ever played and just loved it from childhood. But if I want something a little newer, I like the faster games. There's a guy named Steve Ritchie who designed games starting in the 70s, and he's still doing it today for the few manufacturers that are out there. And his games are super, super fast. I love them. High Speed, Getaway. There's just so many great games. Twilight Zone, I know, is one of your favorites.
That is my favorite pinball machine, yes.
That is another one of mine because it's got so much in it. You can play for hours and not even get through the whole thing. But it's almost impossible to pick a favorite. A lot of times people ask me that question. It's tough to answer it because there's so many things that I like.
Okay.
And here I like the ones that don't break too. Which
well,
there aren't any that don't break, but the ones that break less, I should say.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's like, which machine do you like the best? The one that's working. And then in terms of the arcade games, separate from pinball, so like you see your Crystal Castles, your Pac-Man, and everything like that, what's the go-to?
I like the Tato games from the 80s. Kicks, little boxes you would draw.
Yep.
You know, it's simple. It's ugly almost to look at, but it's fun to play. Zookeeper's another one.
Zookeeper's such a good game.
Yep. And again, it's simple and it's not much to look at, but it's a fun game and challenging.
Yeah, Zookeeper's one of those games that I think to this day, I don't know if they've ever released it on a console. I could be wrong about that. I remember there's a company online who released like a quarter arcade version of it. And then I think Antstream Arcade, which is an online service you can sign up for it, they might have it. But in terms of home consoles, I don't know if Zookeeper ever made it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's one of those games that it's just one of those games that I don't know why.
It should make it.
It should definitely make it, and I'm gonna triple check that before I put this out and embarrass myself and be like, see, I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. But I do believe it's that one, and I remember playing it for the first time online, and I was like, this is a fun game. Why did it never get released anywhere? And I'm sure there's a whole story behind that in and of itself. So. In terms of the arcade itself and your clientele and like how busy it gets and everything like that, I would assume summers are busiest here.
Yeah, summer here from Memorial Day to Labor Day is just madness. It's sheer madness. You know, people are here off the beach. Even when it rains, they have nothing to do, so they're coming here.
They come in here.
You know, and on a nice day, the boardwalk is packed. So either way, we get a lot of people.
And then I'm assuming during the summer, you're at your busiest in terms of machines that go down.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here way earlier on those summer days than I am on the winter days, even though we're open 365 days a year, except Christmas and Thanksgiving. I shouldn't say that. But, you know, in the winter, it's a lot quieter.
Okay.
So that's my little break.
You get to breathe a little bit, maybe fiddle around with the machines yourself. Oh,
yeah. I do projects in the winter, you know, machines that are in the warehouse that I want to bring in that I can restore and, you know, things that just need a lot of work and upgrading. Summer, it's triage. You go around, you fix whatever needs doing, and you just keep moving because otherwise it'll never get done. But
that's cool. And then the other great thing about like arcades like this these days, you know, you talk about when you first started playing and always having to put the quarter up on the machine and having to make sure that you had quarters or change machines and everything like that. Yeah. All gone, flat fee all day or however many like hours
by the
you
hour,
get. Yeah, you do it by the hour and everything like that, and then just everything's free play basically from there, which is great, but it does take away a bit of that nostalgia. Even like arcades that I used to go to where you would get tokens instead of quarters, it still gave you that feeling. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's like, this is a nice throwback putting the token in the machine. Whereas now it's just, here's $20. And
on the pinballs, winning a free game was a big deal.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody cares about winning a free game.
No, you always you just hit start again and off you go. To be honest with pinball, I'm very happy about it because I'm really, really bad at pinball. Like I lose so fast and I don't understand why, because I've been playing video games my whole life. I know my way around controls and stuff. Put me in front of a pinball machine, I just crater.
Mm-hmm. You're not the only one.
Oh no, I'm sure I'm not. I was like, that's why like setups like this are perfect for me because I can just jump around and not blow $10 on a machine in like 3 minutes.
Right, exactly. You know? And everybody says that. They all love this concept.
Oh yeah, it's a great concept, and I know it's one that's been making the rounds. I've been to a lot of arcades now where it's really just a flat fee scenario.
Because you can't make money on quarters anymore; they're not worth anything.
No, they're.
And I love that I never hear that anymore.
Oh man!
Or people kicking
it. Yeah. Where's my quarter? It's stuck in there.
And we don't have to deal with that. We don't have to empty them. We don't have to give change out, and don't have to deal with break-ins. It's much better.
Much better. Well, I think I think we've been sitting here long enough. As much as I love talking with you about this stuff in your background, I think it's time for us to kind of break into some of these machines. When I say break into, it's like, let's go around and play a little bit. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, cool.
The Retro Gamers Podcast is brought to you by Old School Gamer Magazine. Sign up for as little as $20 per year for 6 issues that include feature articles, interviews with retro programmers, new and old product reviews, and more. If you look carefully, you'll even see an article or two penned by yours truly. You can head over to oldschoolgamermagazine.com/retrogamerspodcast and sign up so they know where you heard about it. Old School Gamer is dedicated to you, the old school retro gamers, from the arcades to your home.
All right, so we are starting in front of the oldest pinball machine you have in the place. Is that correct, Dan?
That's right.
All right, and we're looking at Knockout.
Mm-hmm.
I can see up top here that it is from 1950, also from Gottlieb and Company.
Yep.
So you want to tell us a little bit about this machine?
Sure. This was one of the best games they made in the 50s. It's one of the wood rail games because these side rails are obviously wood as compared to the newer games, which are all metal. That changed in the 60s. The early 60s is when they switched from wood rails to metal, but in this era, they were still on the wood rails. The artwork was done by a guy named Roy Parker. You can see everybody, not just the guys in the ring, everybody is fighting.
Nice. I like the old lady. I like the old lady with the umbrella.
I do too.
That's just awesome.
It's just craziness, but it's fun. And it's a fun game to play. It's simple, but it's got this little boxing ring in the middle. These guys actually move, and this guy falls down when he gets hit.
Nice.
And the object is you want to hit each bumper to turn the lights off and get knockouts, and then your knockouts progress as you go. And your score is lit up back here with these lit
Oh yeah, look at that.
places on the back glass. It's before they came up with the reels, the little wheels that turn in the later games. And now, of course, everything is on a screen.
Everything's on a screen.
But back then, it was basically just little lights that would come on and advance as you go.
Nice. All right. Do you want to give this one?
Sure.
Let's give this one a try. This is a 75-year-old pinball machine.
Yep.
So, and I'm sorry, I may crowd a little bit from the side here.
No sweat. Still running.
Actually, I'm going to come around your way over here.
All right.
Let's check this out.
And back in these days, what you had to do is push that lever to get the ball up. It's before they actually had a automatic lift.
I like how you have a sign there for it.
Because nobody figures it out if they don't. And they just wait for the ball and it never comes out if they don't push that. This game has very small flippers. Back in those days, they were 2-inch flippers.
Oh yeah, I see that.
And the newer games have 3-inch flippers for the most part. And people like that much better. It's easier and you have a better shot at it. And this also has a little...
I was just going to say, I saw that.
There. That drops down after you hit a certain score. And then you lose the ball. But it saves your ball until you get to that score, which is kind of a nice feature.
Well, yeah, because it kind of guarantees that you get to play for a little bit before losing your ball.
Not one of those immediately down the center drain kind of things.
And then do you get like 3 balls for
on this
it?
one?
Or is it
This
just
one, it's 5.
This one, you get 5.
And there are actually 5 individual balls. It's not one that keeps coming through. There are actually 5 balls in there. And sometimes people will just put them all on the playfield at once and play more than one. You can do your own multi-ball, even though it wasn't built that way.
That's really cool.
More than one.
Yeah, I see the ball collecting at the bottom over there.
Yep, and that's how you would know how many balls you had played. It doesn't even have any kind of a way of giving you that on
I also love, I'm
screen.
looking at it right now, it used to cost 5 cents to play.
Yep, 5 cents, and no wagering and no prizes.
No wagering, no prizes. That's unacceptable.
And minors were not permitted to play this game either.
Well, because of the fighting aspect of it?
No, it was because back in the day, this was still considered kind of a gray area. It wasn't gambling necessarily, but people did gamble on them in bars and, who was going to get the higher score.
Of course.
So those kinds of things went on. But prior to flippers were invented in 1947. Prior to flippers, pinball was strictly gambling. You would shoot the ball and it would drop into holes and you had no control on the playfield whatsoever because there was no flipper to push it around. Once flippers were invented, which is only 3 years before this game, it changed everything. It became a skill game. But even decades later, there was still this battle going on between the authorities and people who wanted to play and people who operated these machines between, is it really skill? Is it really gambling? What is it? And that all came to a head in 1976, actually, in New York City, when the New York City Council had a hearing with a guy named Roger Sharp, who famously brought 2 pinball machines to the city council chambers and played pinball in front of them and showed them that he could say, okay, I'm going to shoot the ball and it's going to go through that lane, and then I'm going to hit it. And he explained what he was doing and how it was really his skill that was getting the high scores. And he was going to invite them to challenge him and show that he could beat them. And he never even got that far. They saw what he was doing and they said, okay, you're right, it's legal. And from that point on, pinball was
that's all it takes.
And across the country, then once that wall fell, other places legalized it as well.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I did not know that story at all.
Yeah, that's
really
well
cool.
documented. You can find that.
I'm sure. I know the one in the 90s when they started putting ratings on video games because of the violence aspect, but this is great where somebody just went in. It's like, this is how it goes. It's like, okay, done.
Yeah.
Convinced. Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for showing us that machine. I say let's move on to something else.
Okay.
What do you think?
Sure.
All right. So we're here in front of the oldest machine you have in the place. So let's talk about this one a little bit.
Yep. This is an exhibit Rotary merchandiser. This is from the 1930s. They built these for many, many years, so we don't know exactly what year this one was made. Okay. But it's definitely from the 30s or maybe the early 40s. These were found all up and down the Jersey Shore and probably all across the country for many, many decades. This was a super popular concept where they would have little prizes just like we do on this turntable. It spins, and when you press the button, that arm in the back comes across and you try to get it to push a prize into that hole in the center, in which case you win. And back in those days, you would either win or lose. Most of the time you would lose.
Of course.
But today, in order to have this legally operating here, we have it a little bit modified where if you don't win, it'll keep playing until you do win.
Oh, nice.
So you always get something when you play ours.
And now when you win something, are you talking about the little
ducks,
the little ducks and animals and stuff like that?
Yep.
That's kind of cool though.
Yeah.
That's a cool little
Everybody
thing.
loves them. They've been.
I gotta say, I like the duck with the bunny ears over here in the front.
Oh yeah, those
He's kind of cool.
Are Easter ducks.
Yes, the Easter duck's cool. I like the frog. Get rid of the clowns. Not a clown guy. I like the fact that there's a picture back here too showing that this was in another arcade back in 1978.
Right here in Asbury Park. This was in a place called the Palace Amusements, which is a super famous place. In fact, that was an arcade down the block, which is no longer here, sadly. It was demolished in 2004. Bruce Springsteen actually mentions that in Born to Run.
Oh, wow.
When he sings Beyond the Palace, Hemi-powered drones stream down the boulevard. That's the palace he's talking about, that arcade. So that picture shows this machine in that arcade back in the 70s.
That's really cool. Yeah. And again, another testament to like this machine is almost 100 years old. And here it is, still kicking.
Yeah, still running.
Really, really cool.
Yeah, we're lucky to have it. I bought it from the former owner of the palace, who is still in town.
Oh, nice.
He now runs a hardware store, but I was just fortunate to get it at just the right time.
That's great, man. Yeah, it's all about timing. Right?
Yeah.
Timing's everything.
Yeah, there's not many of these out there that you see operating anymore. I'm sure there's a few in basements of people's houses, but that's about it.
Oh, I'm sure. All right, let's move on. So no trip to an arcade is complete without going down Pac-Man Row. And obviously, you've got all the Pac-Mans here.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking
most of
them. We got Pac-Man, obviously Miss Pac-Man. We got Junior Pac-Man. That's right, you do have most of them. I just thought of one that's missing. But this one, which you don't see everywhere, Baby Pac-Man, which was one of the first or maybe the only, I don't know too much history on this, that has an actual arcade video game combined with the pinball machine.
That's right.
So you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah. This was actually probably the least successful out of all the Pac-Man games because it was both video and pinball, as you said. And at the time, they had come out with these huge monster hit games, Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man. Everybody loved them. Best games ever made. With this, they were trying to do something a little bit different, and they ended up basically alienating everyone because very few people liked both of these. They either liked pinball and hated video, or they liked video and hated pinball. And this forces you to play both. And it's hard. It's much harder than the original games. In order to play this game, you have to earn your energizers. There's loads of dots to eat, but the energizers are not there until you play pinball and earn them by hitting those little targets at the back there. And it's tough to get them. You have to hit them 6 times each to get one energizer. See where that says Pac-Man in the middle?
Yep.
That lights up as you hit the target, one letter at a time. And if you lose the ball, baby Pac-Man goes back in the maze with no energizers, and those ghosts are aggressive as can be. And so you will not last long if you're not really good at both games. So
That's a lot of work.
yeah, they built 7,000 of these things, despite the fact that it really wasn't that successful. But I enjoy it because I like both games. But
All right,
a
cool.
lot of people just didn't gravitate to it as much.
All
as
right, well, you know
others.
what? If you like it so much, why don't you give
Try
it a
it?
go? Let's
Sure.
give it a go.
Sure. So you start pretty much the same as any other Pac-Man, and you can see those ghosts are out already, and this is only the first level. And I have to go down here to play pinball. And now you've got your 2 buttons on the side, just like any other pinball machine. And what I have to do is hit those targets up the top, or there's actually another ball in that little horseshoe thing up at the top there. And yeah, I just hit it, but I didn't get it all the way. If you get that to go to the other side, you will earn an energizer by doing that. And you also have on the left and right where it says fruits, if you get all of those lights to light up, you will advance to the next fruit, which I think goes from cherries to strawberries, and
Basically, the standard progression in a Pac-Man game.
yeah, and they're the more they go, the
Worth more points.
More points, right? On the
Obviously.
other side, it says tunnel. On the other side, that makes you go faster through the tunnel if you can hit that enough. And I did earn 1 energizer. You can see it down in
nice.
that second one.
So now you don't go back up top till you lose the ball like that.
Just like that, yep.
And just like
now you can't go back down. See, the gate is
It's
blocked.
blocked. The
So
gate is
now
blocked.
I am stuck in that maze with all these ghosts, and I have 1 energizer. And that's it. And the other 3 energizers are not there because I didn't earn them.
Because you didn't earn them.
And so now I have to either eat every dot in this maze without getting killed, or, which is very unlikely I'm not going to be able to do that,
Hey,
see what happens.
You didn't do that bad.
So then once you lose your man, then you get another chance to play pinball.
Got it.
It opens up the bottom again.
There you go.
And then you can go back down.
And off you go. Yeah, and that's Baby Pac-Man. Again, it's one of those ones that a lot of people don't see.
Yeah,
So
there are not a lot of them out there anymore.
yeah, it's really cool. Obviously, the other ones here, Junior Pac-Man, who you might not see that often.
Yeah.
But Miss Pac-Man and Pac-Man are the staples
Oh
everywhere.
yeah,
So-
absolutely.
All right, very cool. Well, this is your Pac-Man Row, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
Okay, it doesn't matter where I am, what arcade I'm in. If I see a Twilight Zone pinball machine, we're going to stop. We're going to talk about it. We're going to play it. This is, for somebody who doesn't like pinball, this is by far and away my favorite pinball machine. Because when I first started working at a video store when I was 18 years old, video rental store, this was one of the 2 arcade games they had in there. The other arcade would always switch out, but Twilight Zone was there the longest. I remember how sad I was when it went away because I wanted this in my home. I still want it in my home. I can't afford to have it in my home. So, and this one came out, we're talking, 30 years, almost 30 years after the Twilight Zone show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just absolutely crazy. So I know we talked before about how this was also kind of one of your favorites as well.
Oh yeah. This is consistently rated as the #1 pinball machine ever made as far as gameplay. It wasn't the most successful one as far as quantity produced. That would be Addams Family. But this was the top game, and still is in many surveys, the top game as far as what you can do and the fun it is to play. And most people have no idea because it's super complex and it takes a long time to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
But we had one of these where I used to work in New York, and I spent many, 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 many hours playing it and learning it, and I absolutely loved it, and I still love it.
All right. Well, why don't you show us how much you love
Sure.
it? Let's see this one go. I love
Unlock this door with the key of imagination.
And
I loved how they handled so many different episodes in this
oh yeah,
machine. It was great because
Yep.
I still watch Twilight Zone to this day.
mm-hmm. It's a classic. You got 4 flippers, and there are 6 balls in this game. One of the balls is actually called a power ball, and I don't know where it is at the moment, but if I can get it out, you'll see it. The power ball is white. It's not its standard pinball. It may be down in the out hole, or it may be up in the gumball machine, which is up there. I can't see if it's in the bottom. But the power ball is called the power ball because it travels at probably twice the speed of a regular pinball. It's a little bit lighter.
Oh, wow.
And the machine knows when you have that ball on the playfield. It actually senses it as it comes out so that it can do different things related to that ball. Now, getting it in the hole up there gives you a light on the door. In a nutshell, you're trying to light up every panel on this door in the middle. All these panels by going into the slot machine hole or into the player piano hole up there.
I love the clock.
Yeah. And the clock will actually tell the real time when no one's playing, too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So many intricacies to this one. It's crazy.
It's just unbelievable. They put so much into this game, and they, I think, thought they had another Addams Family when they built this, and it was super popular, but it didn't quite make the cut as far as Addams Family did. And this was the type of game where the real super players, the people who really know pinball and love pinball, gravitated to this one because it had so much in it. The average player enjoyed playing it, but had no idea what they were doing.
That's fair.
So,
even me to this day, I have no idea. I really have no idea.
But you have fun. That's what counts.
That's
the bottom line. You just want to have fun.
Go for the greed. Go for the greed.
No, I'm actually going for the gumball.
Oh, you went for the gumball.
Yeah, if I can get the gumball out, I may get the Powerball.
Nice.
Which is, I'm trying to show you if I can do it. There we go. All right, now out of that machine is going to come a ball. And there it is. And it's going to come over to here and come out.
All right. Let's see this.
Powerball.
Let's see the Powerball.
Here it comes.
Lighter and faster, right?
Yep. Oh, this
there
thing is, yeah, it flies. And it's tough to control. And as you can see, gone.
Not a bad score. And an extra ball, no less.
Yeah. And
I love that guy.
The little graphics up there are great.
Well, that's the little guy from the Invaders episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that episode.
No, but yeah, he comes out. There's a talking Tina that gives you extra balls.
I love talking.
She was the little doll. I think she's up here.
Yes. Yeah, she's sitting up there. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Love Twilight Zone. Such a great game. All right, so now everything is on. We have every machine on. I know the place isn't open yet. It's going to be opening soon, but we're just going to take a quick walkthrough just to look at. Hey, I've already got a machine yelling at me.
That's Cyclone telling you.
Cyclone's
Come
telling
play me. He woke up.
T2, love the T2 game. Always fun. Super Breakout.
That's an early one, black and white.
Yep. Oh, a multicade. Very nice.
Yeah, those are not my favorite things in the world, but we have it just because we can offer so many games in one cabinet that we couldn't otherwise have because of floor space reasons.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So.
I mean, there's nothing like the original, but...
Yeah, they're not quite the same. If you really know the difference, you can hear the sound is a little off, and it's not exactly the same, but people enjoy it.
Very cool, yeah. We're just doing a run-through of the actual place. Yep. Stop me if you've heard this one. I remember the T2 pinball machine, too.
That was a big success.
That was a good one.
Yep, that was the first one that had this dot matrix display on it.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Very nice. Here's Getaway. I know you were talking about Getaway earlier.
Getaway and High Speed are actually twins. Getaway came out in 92. High Speed was 86. These were super, super successful. And High Speed actually, I would say, is almost completely responsible for saving pinball.
Really?
When it was down in the dumps, because video games by the mid-'80s had taken over the arcades, and the real estate that used to be occupied by pinball was all video games, almost all of it.
Wow.
This was such a great game that people bought it like crazy, the operators, and people played it like crazy, and thankfully that kept Williams making pinball, I would say.
Nice.
If they didn't have that, it may not have gone the way it did.
And the rest is history. You know, there are a lot of stories like that in the industry. Let's get out of here before he pulls us over again.
Yeah. And actually, I should tell you real quick, that game was, the designer says, and I believe it, it's a true-to-life story that he was driving his Porsche at some ridiculous speed and was chased by the cops, and then he decided he would turn it into a pinball machine.
Wow.
And that was the
That's
result.
a good story.
Yeah, I believe that is true.
Well, I mean, if he told the story, I mean, I would believe it.
Yep.
Oh, man. I love how the arcade has, like, newer machines, like alternating between newer and older machines. I think that's such a great setup.
That actually was another sort of accident that happened. The reason we did that is because of during COVID, when we were allowed to open again after COVID, they wanted to keep people separated, obviously, as much as possible. And the older games are not played as much as the newer ones. So we felt that by alternating, we would have more space between people than having all newer games next to each other. Right.
Smart. I
And
love
it
Mr.
just
Commander.
worked, so we left it that way.
No, honestly, I think it's a really smart setup.
Yeah.
It's just, and here you go. This is the best-selling
Addams
pinball
Family,
machine of all time.
Most successful game of all time. They made over 20,000 of them.
Amazing.
And since that time, no manufacturer has made more pinball machines of any one title than this.
That's crazy. Who knew that movie would prompt something like that?
Yeah, well, I think it's a perfect theme. It appeals to everybody. The sound is great in that game. It plays fantastically. There's nothing bad about it. Thing is in the game. His little hand comes out and grabs the ball and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, they made it so in tune with the property, with the film, that I mean, sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm surprised Twilight Zone didn't do better than it,
Yeah, well, it was successful, but not an Addams Family. But as you can see, there's almost everything in the newer games is
good old
licensed.
Elvira.
Oh yeah, there are multiple Elvira games out there.
I have never seen this one, but I've played an Elvira pinball machine. It's not this one. I forgot the name of the one.
I think there are. I know there are at least 3, if not 4, over the years.
Very cool. And for some whitewater rafting.
Yeah, Whitewater is one of the few non-licensed games that they made in the 90s.
Okay.
It's just a cool
Well,
thing.
you know, it's funny how like by the time we get to the 90s and everything like that, people were trying to take advantage of licenses because they know that would garner interest as opposed to coming up with something new.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Like Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And then Roller Coaster, I remember playing this one somewhere. I think it might have been in Vegas, Las Vegas. I think they have one at the
This is
at the Pinball Hall of
1971.
Fame.
Yeah, you must be from one of those types of places. You won't see these out too much anymore.
No, I'm pretty sure that you would not.
Yeah.
And it's 2-player.
Yep. Yeah, this was a donation. Somebody gave us that.
Wow.
And that happens frequently. People have a machine in their house, and usually it's not working and it's not in the greatest of shape, and they don't want to throw it away, and so they contact
Nobody
us.
should ever.
No, they
throw it
shouldn't,
away.
but they do. I have more than once found them at the side of the road and rescued machines that were about to be brought to a landfill.
And here we are with Zookeeper.
One of my all-time favorites.
I know you had mentioned that one.
I love this game.
That's great.
Simple but
Absolutely love it.
loads of fun.
No, this has been a great. This is such a great place, and you obviously keep it up really, really well.
Thank you. It's a labor of love, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
And this is actually our newest game, Avatar Jersey Jack Pinball.
Oh, nice.
Just came out with Avatar last year. And the one before it is Elton John. On this,
I was about to say the Elton John one looks pretty new.
It is. And yet we also have the older Elton John from '76.
Nice, side by side.
Yep. And he knows we're standing here.
I was gonna say Elton John just called me.
Yep. Some of these games can actually see you going by. They have cameras in them, and they will start
That's how they get
calling
your
you to
attention?
come over and play.
That's really cool.
And what I loved about this is that they took some of this, as far as the artwork, and translated it over to here. If you look at the bumpers on this one, and you see his little face with the hat, it's the same thing, just facing the other direction on the bumpers on the newer one.
So while we were walking through, the arcade, obviously you would point this out to me, but I saw this gargantuan machine. It is a Hercules pinball machine, and I don't know if you can stand by there just to show, like, this thing is like a double wide. This is like a double wide machine. It's really huge. What's the story behind this one? Because it came out in 1979, as the placard up there says.
Yep.
But what's the story behind this one?
This is a rare game. You will not find many of these out there at all anymore. And this was Atari's attempt at doing something completely different, but still making pinball. Atari made pinball machines for maybe 4 or 5 years. They didn't make a lot of them, and none of them were super successful, but they thought that they had something here that they could just, blow away the competition because it was so different and strange and unique. And what happened was they found that very few places could put this in because it requires so much space.
Yeah.
You couldn't put this in the average bar or restaurant or places that weren't huge because there just isn't enough room for it. Not to mention getting it through the door and in and set up and moving it around is not an easy task. So it only went into the biggest arcades back in the day, and they only made 280 of them. today, who knows how many are left? Probably not many, because the ones that were out there operating, by the time they stopped making money, there was very few places you could sell it. You know, most pinball machines, people love to have them in their homes after they're not making money out in the wild anymore. This thing doesn't fit in people's basements.
No, definitely does not.
Or at least not many.
I was gonna say, that thing looks like it doesn't fit through the door here.
Yeah, well, it did, but not easily.
It's crazy. I mean, literally everything is just giant
It's
size.
huge. Yeah, and instead of a pinball, it has a pool ball. See that right there?
Oh, wow.
That's actually a cue ball from a pool
That
table.
is a cue ball, and even like kind of holding the flippers, like you really got to stretch to touch this.
Yeah, your
thing.
arms are
Like,
much
look at
further
this.
apart.
Go for it. Let's see how this goes.
Very early, rough sound, but
This is like if you were a giant. It's a giant's pinball machine. That's just crazy.
yeah, the little kids can't even play because they can't get their arms across.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, this is an adult pinball machine for sure.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and it only has, besides the flippers, only has 4 moving solenoids in there, 2 bumpers and 2 slingshots.
Oh, wow.
Everything else is just switches and lights, and it's
Because
quite honestly not that much fun to play. It's just the novelty of it is what gets people.
I was gonna say, like, this thing was probably so expensive to make they could not add more to it.
Probably, yeah.
Because I'm sure the price was insane.
Mm-hmm.
That is really cool. And then, in the same vein, like while we were standing here, you pointed out something on this side, and we're going to walk over there because I have never seen a Joust pinball machine before.
And you probably will never see another one.
This is wild. This is because it's a two-sided.
Yep. Tabletop.
Two-sided
format.
tabletop format.
Yep.
This is crazy.
They made a bunch of different machines in this type of a head-to-head competitive setup.
Yep.
And not just Williams. Williams made this one, but a lot of manufacturers tried this, and none of them were super successful. People seem to like the standard pinball where you're just one guy playing up and down rather than against somebody. Even though competitive games are popular, air hockey's popular, this just didn't seem to catch on too well. And when they came out with this, the Joust video game had already been out, and that was a big smash hit, as we all know. I love that one. And they thought they could translate it to pinball. And the sounds of this are very similar, and the theme of it obviously is the same. But again, the video players wanted to play video games. The pinball players wanted to play pinball, and they just didn't seem to cross over. So unfortunately, even though this is a cool game, and it is fun to play, they only made 400 of them. And who knows how many are left today? Probably not a lot.
It's crazy.
But if you can find one of these, they are super expensive.
That's a gem.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously needed 2 people to play it.
No, you don't.
You don't need 2 people
What
to play it.
happens
You can do it
is
solo.
if you only play on the one-player mode, you play with all 4 flippers. On this
interesting.
side. If you're playing 2 players, then that side is those flippers, and this side is these flippers.
Got it.
And I can demonstrate that if you would.
Yeah, let's go
like
for
to
it.
See. So I'm in one-player mode, so when I flip, all the flippers will flip.
Got it. Oh, wow.
And so if I flip the ball across, then I have to flip it back to me over here. And it's hard to see what's going on the other side because
I was going to say because of the slope, it's got to be really
you
difficult.
can see the ball, but
Yeah.
it's hard to see the targets that you're hitting and aiming for. And obviously everything is reversed, so that makes it tough. But
That is a really interesting machine. It's such a great novelty. I mean, it seemed like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It just,
but it just never caught on.
I can understand the why it didn't catch on, because if you didn't have 2 people with you and seeing the other side would be difficult.
Right.
It's
Right.
challenging.
And it takes up a lot of room because you have to have not just the machine, but space for each player on
Space
either
for the
side.
player.
And so,
Yeah.
they tried, but thankfully Williams was big enough that they could survive a few not so great games and still continue to make games, which they did until 1999.
Wow, that's great. Really, and obviously the artwork, always classic. So, all right, cool. All right, let's. I know where I want to head next. I'm gonna keep rolling.
Yep.
So we're gonna go to the good old classic Mario Brother Donkey Kong Row here, which also
All
has
Nintendos.
another one of my favorites, which is Popeye.
Ah,
Popeye's a great game. So obviously, for those who don't know, I'm sure most people who watch the show know, Super Mario Brothers did have an arcade version. which is really awesome. And then, of course, you can't have an arcade without your Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr. And last but not least, over here, Popeye. I love the Popeye game. It's amazing how Popeye was originally going to be the Donkey Kong
That's right.
game.
That's correct.
Yeah, I always loved that
Couldn't get
story.
the license.
Could not get the license, and Shigeru Miyamoto created Donkey Kong as a result of that, and the rest is history.
Yep.
And then they did get the license and eventually did make a Popeye, because there's your Nintendo logo right up there.
And yet it was not as popular.
No, it definitely was not. Well, it was a completely different kind of game.
Right.
You know? I remember having this Popeye on the NES, and I absolutely loved it. I used to play it all the time. But it's just, and it always amazes me to see Super Mario Brothers in an arcade, because I never saw this when I was a kid. Like, Mario Brothers, never saw the arcade ever. I just had the NES game. So just whenever I come across it and I see it, it just makes me smile. It's just always a nice like throwback.
Yeah. And this was super popular. This made lots of money.
I'm sure it did. And then there was also, I know you don't have it here, but the Versus version of it.
Right.
There's a Versus.
Well, this is Versus.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Versus.
Yeah, but it's not the dual.
I'm thinking of the dual
double,
cabinet.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the dual
cabinet. They had
cabinet.
the tents. They had the duals.
Yes.
There were different
Which I did
ones.
run across once in my life, and I was like, that's really cool. But again, massive and heavy,
Big.
and I'm sure it was a big deal. But yeah, okay, had to stop for a moment just to pay my respects to these guys.
Yeah.
Dan, this has been absolutely amazing. I have to say, like, this is one of the best arcades I think I've ever been to. I think that obviously looking around and first off seeing every machine actually works, which is good because look, every arcade machines go down, right? I mean, it happens, but just walking around, everything is kept in like tip-top shape. Clearly, you know what you're doing since you've been doing this for 40 years.
It's a labor of love.
Yep, and just walking through and seeing all of these different machines, definitely machines I've never seen before, especially on the pinball side. Like that Hercules machine is insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. The Joust machine is awesome. I'm surprised I've never come across these things before, but it's just amazing to see. And then even something as simple as like the throwback to skee ball at Right Playland. Like as soon as we're done recording, I'm walking right over to that machine. I'm walking right over there.
You can do what everybody else does. Go right to that.
I'm just going to go right to the skee ball machine because you know what? There's just that draw.
Yeah.
There's just that draw to it. But I got to say, like kudos to you, and you've had an amazing career, obviously in pinball, even though it may have happened accidentally. It's like you found your niche and you found it early, and you're still doing it 40 years later. I mean, I can't think of.
I'm lucky to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I really think it's really a testament also to how much you love this and the passion that you have for it. And you don't always see that in a lot of people. So for that, I say congratulations, man.
Thank you.
And again, thank you so much for letting me into
my
the Silverball Retro Arcade, and thank you for being on the show.
All right. Cool.
Thanks.
Welcome back to the podcast. I really hope that you enjoyed my interview with Dan Toskaner. Ridiculously knowledgeable guy when it comes to pinball machines. I was actually stunned with not only learning the things that he's been doing for his entire life. I mean, he said it himself, like 40 years of almost 40 years of working with pinball machines, which is just unbelievable. But just the fact that there are people like him out there that are still trying to preserve all of these great machines, some of them 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, as you saw in the video and the walkthrough of the arcade. And if you happen to be in the East Coast area, if you're hitting up the beach this summer, and you're in New Jersey, hit up Asbury Park, go to Silverball Retro Arcade. Again, it's a flat rate. It's a flat fee, and you can play all day if you want to, which is great. I had a blast over there. I played a whole bunch of pinball, which I've said on the show before. I'm not good at pinball. I am not good at pinball, but it was just a blast to be able to play that. Any place that has my Twilight Zone pinball machine, I'm all in. So it was great to see that. And I hope they have a very successful summer at Silverball Retro Arcade, and you guys should check it out. And with that, we're going to wrap up the episode. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 411 and this interview. And you can find us on Facebook.com/RetroGamersPodcast, on Instagram and Blue Sky at Retro Gamers Podcast. You can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube and Spotify at Retro Gamers Podcast. Or if you want to ask me a question, hit me up at email@theretrogamers.com. that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we will catch you, and when I say we, I mean I'll have a co-host next time. We will catch you next time on the Retro Gamers Podcast.